And finally, for my last modality, that is going to be using a kettlebell. And for the upper body exercise with the kettlebells, I'm going to be doing rows, with the first variation being rows with a supinated grip. And like I mentioned when doing the bicep curls, supinated grip means it's also called underhand grip, and this means that the radius does not cross over the ulna, or in other words, the thumb does not cross over the pinky. And though these kettlebells are shaped differently, they have different sizes to them, they are of the same weight, which is 10 pounds. For the supinated rows with kettlebells, I'm going to be doing 2 sets of 8 with my knees and hips slightly flexed, hinging at the waist and pulling my elbows back, pulling the weights back with my elbows pointing behind me and squeezing my shoulder blades together at the top, and then going back to the starting position and repeating. The next variation I performed for the kettlebell rows were rows with a neutral grip, and again, like I've mentioned in the bicep curls, neutral grip is with the thumb facing up and the pinky facing down. It can also be thought of as a halfway point between the supinated position and the pronated hand position. And like in the first variation, I am again doing 2 sets of 8. And finally, with the third variation, I am keeping the neutral grip and performing the kettlebell rows unilaterally. That is 1 arm at a time, and here I'm starting with my right arm, still with my feet shoulder width apart, knees slightly flexed, hinging over at the waist, but my back is nice and straight and I am keeping my chest out. I am not hunching over. And while my feet remain shoulder width apart, this staggered stance here helps a little bit with the stability, as it is a unilateral exercise. For the lower body exercise I chose to do with kettlebells, we're going to be lunges, and for the first variation, I'm going to be lunging forward. With these lunges, I'm holding the kettlebell at about chest height, maintaining a straight back, and stepping forward to get into a nice knee flexion, not allowing the forward knee to bend over my ankle. I will be performing these for 2 sets of 10, and lunges are a great way to help with creating a foundation for forward and lateral movement. And next, after these, we are going to move into backward kettlebell lunges. And kettlebell lunges, again, are good for developing strength in the legs as well as the glutes, and specifically to improve single leg strength. The muscles that are going to be activated here are the quads, hamstrings, glutes, and a little bit of core and calves as well. This variation of the exercise also takes into account balance, as it is a unilateral movement, as stepping back will put less stress on the knees, but it also requires more coordination. And although the kettlebell lunges share a similar movement pattern to those of squats, lunges have greater activation of the glutes. And finally, for my third variation of lunges with a kettlebell, I am going to perform lateral lunges, again 2 sets of 10. And lateral lunges is good for working on the hips, and as I perform these, I go into a good comfortable depth, as going too far can create an intense uncomfortable stretch that's on the inner thigh. These lateral lunges can also be helpful in sports with cutting or similar movement cutting type patterns that are needed skills in those types of sports. And 2, lateral lunges can increase mobility and overall strength, and particularly lateral types of movement, like I said, and anything that happens to be lacking in symmetry in those lateral types of movements can be addressed with these styles of exercise. The landing position for the lateral lunge is about double or twice that of the width of a squat stance. And as I move into the lateral lunge and the landing portion of it, I'm shifting my weight more towards the flexed knee with the ankle below the knee and the knee below the hip, while the other knee is getting more into of an extension position.